allegations made by Chris, the man who confessed to killing his wife and sticking her in a grave and dumping his baby girls deep into pitch black oil, has the gall to ask us all to help us find his family, and then has the gall to tell the police, she did it. My wife did it.
The simplest thing ever. I have 2 kids in the morning, 2, 4, and a 2-year-old to get ready in the morning, early. And not easy. So Thrive saves me every morning and saves them from getting in trouble at 6 o'clock in the morning. This morning, I just went and dropped the kids off.
My wife was the one who killed those girls. I think this guy is a piece of you-know-what.
Now, where's your phone?
In the garage.
I wanted it.
Oh.
That family was. He lied to all of us. Why are we to suspect for a moment he's not going to lie to the police about his beautiful wife, Shanann, who couldn't have said anything but loving things towards him?
My husband's a genius. Yes.
Kill me.
Chris. I don't want a video of you.
Loving things towards those little baby girls.
Are you stuck? Look at you. You're a hot mess. Are you stuck? You're not supposed to. You turned the water orange. Bella's already been to her room twice. Cece's been in timeout twice. Bella's been in timeout twice. So between that and I'm struggling right now. Here, let's go. So why Cece gets some attention. Girls, no fighting, please. No fighting. This is what I do all day long. I'm a referee. Hold on, mama. Can we look at the camera? Say hi. Yeah. So, I'm obviously, you see, I'm not gonna be able to finish my conversation with you guys, but reach out to me, you know, let me help you. Girls, can I say, you want an apple? You want an apple? Look at the hearts. See the hearts? Yeah. That means to Hi guys.
Look, it's not on you. See?
I'll tell you, I wouldn't have been a very nice mommy before Thrive.
Say hi.
We're together and we do everything together, and that's what she's used to.
She's a mother who loves being with her kids.
Seriously. I gotta be quiet because the kids are in bed. They went to bed at 6:30. To bed an hour, almost an hour ago. They're in bed by 6:30, playing with her in her bed. Like, we literally, it's 6:30. They go to bed at 6:30. I get up because I want to have morning time before the kids get up. All right, that's gonna have to do. For me, I just want me time in the morning. I don't go to bed till 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock, which is my time. Because that's my time to, like, do me. Like, read, work, whatever I want to, watch TV. Like, that's me time. And I just can't go to bed early. I just don't like to. I was always a late owl. Never a morning person, always a late owl. They have an eating schedule. They have a food schedule. 4.5 past their night bedtime. My kids are baby-wise kids. They go to bed clockwork. It's on schedule every day so I can get rest. I have to have rest. So it was really weird for her to be off schedule and we're not being out of the house. So I put her down. This is Lori, they're in bed. It don't take me long. They're sleep trained, so I literally just pop them in bed and they're good to go. I don't rock them, don't cradle them. Put them in bed and they're done. On their face, Bella. That's why we have kids. All fours, little monkeys. I just wanted to get them to school right away, as soon as possible. So I got them off to school. On their face, Bella. Just their legs. Bella! Not money!
All the time.
They're sleeping. So I'm not going to be super loud because it's 12:15. They've been down for like 30 minutes. And Cece's been wild. Like, wild today. She was drinking toilet water, or almost drinking toilet water. She was eating food out of the event in the kitchen. Drilling, using her play drill to drill her mouth. Hey, Christy! She's just one wild child to deal with, you know, toddlers, in the toddler years. So, it's been an eventful morning. Cece just went down. She wanted to fight it, but she was exhausted. She's a little under the weather, so it was good to get her back into school. Tomorrow she goes back to school, so I'm excited for the little break of chasing a kid around from the toilet. So let me go strangle the dog before he wakes up my kids and I strangle him.
Does that sound like a mother who, because her husband wants to split, she kills the little kids?
Type stuff. Like,
But you went through a lot of scenarios
Yeah.
of which her being murdered by her husband was not one of them.
no, yeah, absolutely, like that. And then one that even went through my head at some point was maybe their problems were really bad, and maybe she took her life and the girls. Like maybe it was a murder suicide that way. That was like the worst case scenario in my head. Like maybe they had such a bad fight and there was going to be a custody, and she was pregnant, she was stressed out, she just couldn't handle it anymore. Like that was my worst case scenario.
Which is what's so interesting to me.
Yo, what is up? It's your girl Neeks with the peaks of female annihilations. He had the gall to say she did it. Well, if you haven't looked into it, or if it even pisses you off that I said that, you might want to look at your bias just a little bit. Or it's either that, or you don't know enough about the Watts crimes, which is okay, because a lot of it's been deleted to no fault of your own. Check it out. Female annihilators are never called female annihilators. The headline just reads, "Bat crazy woman off her family."
Today, a verdict in the second murder trial of Andrea Yates. Was she insane? Did she know right from wrong when she drowned her 5 children? The trial lasted more than a month. Today, a verdict that legal scholars say could have real impact on how society views mental illness.
Many people have been able to take Shanann's flaws, such as putting her family on video, whether they liked it or not, and inserted it into a motive for Watts. We can all agree the divorce was going to be ugly, and it was definitely going to be on video and post galore.
Okay, so we have a lot of new people here today that haven't tasted the Pro Bars, and so we're gonna start with these. So they don't know they're being put on the spot, but they're going to be, because yeah, that's how I do it. And Nikki just hit 12K. She just earned her car bonus. How exciting is it, Nikki?
So exciting that I can't talk.
She's been working for over a year. She finally decided last month that she was going to go full-time working the business after leaving a job of how many years were you there? 14 years. And decided to make this change and help people live the life they deserve. And within a month, she hit 12K.
I hate you, but I love you.
There's a lot of hearts on you right now. I won't tell you how many people are watching. All right. You want to say anything?
Great job, Nikki. It's going to be nothing but Lavelle getaways and auto bonuses from here on out. I'm super...
And I'm even proud. I love you.
I love you too.
What kind of car are you going to get?
If Ken has his way, a Tesla.
A Tesla.
Oh, my husband wants a Tesla.
Well, then tell him to earn his own car bonus.
Right?
I know they were looking into getting a Tesla because I guess he was hitting his goals for Thrive, but I know he didn't even sell the Thrive. Shanann was selling her portion and she was selling his as him. Okay. So he was getting points too, and they were looking at another Lexus or a Tesla. He's like, yeah, I'm on pace to get either one of these vehicles for free. So I don't think he ever got it to him or anything else about it.
Nikki, because she's here. Want to say hi to Nikki? She likes going on live when she's not ready because she loves me. Yeah, she's worked all night last night and now she's like still up, hasn't slept yet because we're here. Kristen's gonna kill me. Mommy, Daddy come home, put fire in the face. Wanna say hi, Nana?
No.
Love you guys. And everyone doesn't like going live, but I make them go live because, you know.
It's because you make us get out of our comfort zone every single time. It's amazing.
And you love it.
I love it every time. I know because I asked you, but I'm eventually going to love it.
All right. Hey guys. Say hi, Cece. Say hi, Bells.
Hi, Bells.
No, you gotta say hi.
Hi.
Look at your hair. So Bella saw my video earlier and she was like, I want to do that. So we went live. We're sitting here and I had Chris take a picture of me and Bella laying on the couch together. And she holds my arm up and says, Patch, Patch, picture, Patch. She wanted my picture of my patch. She is obviously very observant. Kids are so smart.
Hi, Mama. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so they wanted to join us in on the live. Say hi, Cece.
Hi, Daddy.
Honey.
You comfortable? Okay.
I don't want to be in it. Get lower. Say normal.
It looks like Bella used to like to be on the camera. So many times that she's actually trying to advertise, she never gets a good job, or there was a couple of times, but there's lots of times where she doesn't and she's totally ignored. God, it's almost like she only wants her to do it when she doesn't want to do it. It's almost maddening. But we see that first year when Shanann really started making a lot of videos in 17, Bella was a much happier child. I guess it's because the critiquing started taking place at some point. Funny enough, once I got a comment from someone who left a link to the You Are My Sunshine video of Bella in the toy room singing with Cece, and she says, I'm sure you'll find something to critique about it too. Funny enough, I'm not that big of an asshole, but the girl she's taken up for, well, you know the rest. Oh, nice try. Despite embarrassingly telling her friends that her husband had zero game, and she may have known for some time or for a while, listen to this.
People know the kind of person I am.
Solid guy.
Yeah, like I'm not the type of guy that's just gonna say, all right, my wife's gone. Like, who's the girl like I can find for this like 5 weeks? Like, no, that's not me. Like, I respect my wife and she respects me. Like, there's no anything that she could like if she's somewhere safe right now, like, I don't think it would be with a guy. I mean, if it is, I'm fine. Like, I want her to be safe. I want the kids back home. If it was with a guy, great. I'd come back home. We'll talk about all that later.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I never had an inkling she would do anything to me, you know?
So how did that come up from her? Like, what exactly did she say to you?
Because of our, like, how, like, our texts and calls were getting, like, shorter and everything like that. Like, she's like, are you having a thing? I was like, no, I'm not having an affair. Like, that is the last thing that should be on your mind.
Did she bring up any other, I guess, in a woman's mind, evidence as far as, you know, why she would think there would be someone else involved or anything like that?
No, it's just 'cause, like, I was, like, whenever, like, she would call, sometimes I'd be out for a run or I'd be working out and she could tell, like, all right, you don't want to talk to me right now, let's just go work out type thing. She's like, when she was gone, I would take that more time to kind of, like, you know, go run, go work out, because, I mean, I had time to do it type of thing. Sure. Like, I would always make time to FaceTime with the kids and everything when she would call, like, you know, I would always make time to do it, like, especially, like, when the kids are awake and everything like that.
Sure.
Like, she was, like later on at night, you know, like, when I would just, sun goes down, I'd go out for a run because it's less hot outside.
And would she accuse you of, like, doing other stuff while you were not answering your phone, or?
Oh, no, like, she was, like, you know, she would ask me, like, hey, can you, like, do this for me? Like, can you find this, like, medication, send me a picture of it? Can you, like, find something at the house. I mean, little things like that. She knew I was at the house. So I mean, it's like she had no reason to really have that fear in her head, but being away for, you know, that amount of time and being pregnant, and it's like that's going to run through her mind.
So do I think it is outside of the realm of possibility that this was a revenge mass murder or revenge familicide? Absolutely, it could qualify. And guess what? The one difference contrasting with their male counterparts is that females typically don't kill the husband. I saw one really interesting write-up that theorized that these types of females who commit these crimes don't view their husbands as a legitimate part of the family, and therefore they do not have to murder them in order to commit a familicide. You know what I really hate? I hate whenever people say that it is misogyny to look at Shanann in this crime. I believe it is misogyny not to. The same thing that leads to men not having shelters from women, the same thing that prevents cops from aiding men who might be in this situation. Men are supposed to handle their own problems. They're supposed to grow some balls, stand up for their family. In some ways, that's instilled in me too. I get it. I want Watts to stand up for his family too. And I try to make sure that whenever I'm mad at him, I'm equally mad at him in the prospect that he were a female. Because yes, at some point, I do expect that you stand up. Otherwise, regardless if you killed anyone, you are a criminal that possibly needs to be locked away. Because you could be talked or abused into any situation, right? Into situations that get other people hurt. No bueno. All no good. Misogyny galore in the Watts case, bruh. But we're not really looking at the actual misogynistic parts, if you ask me. It's misogynistic not to recognize this abuse for what it was. Abuse. Yes, I do expect that he get a divorce and not kill his family. But hello, hey, I'm Neeks, and I do this whole thing. It's like journalism of true crime, getting into the psychology of a crime and the criminal themselves. Behind the narrative ain't for everybody. The interesting twist that everything that makes you think she offed her family is also, in that same light, a reason why people wonder if Watts was what is categorized as a savior killer when it comes to family annihilators. Typically, this is cited to be related to her MBD, and I think this is a very interesting notion. Perpetrated by a savior killer, we have seen the perpetrators of Munchausen by proxy murdered by a savior murderer. In the case of Gypsy Rose, she has her boyfriend off her mom. Her attempt to run away totally fails. That bombs. She calls him a damsel that she is and talks him into the deed. And he comes and quote-unquote saves her. All right, do the disclaimer. I don't literally mean that they are saving them or that they should have done it, of course. It's just a word for a layman's classification for this episode. We've seen this in cases, though, where mothers are trying to save their children from the devil or the evil world. So I guess in some senses, people could wonder if Shanann was being a savior killer as well. Was she stuck in her warped world where the girls really weren't in danger for their lives, and in a world where she gets divorced and is no longer with her husband, this evil family will be able to feed Celeste the nuts, i.e., resulting in her being unalived, as our lovely member here has conjectured. We do see this theme of doomsday protection coming through with Shanann often. Even her friends in the descriptions and her family, they describe her as protective. Here are some synonyms for protective: shielding, defensive, precautionary, preventative, armored, watchful, possessive, clinging, vigilant. How about Bella's word cloud? She's been described as shy, bashful, timid, reserved, shrinking, self-effacing, withdrawn, apprehensive, reluctant, hesitant, suspicious, unconfident, inhibited, constrained, repressed, embarrassed, self-conscious, meek. She's also, ironically, the only character who could actually be described as motherly without any or without few arguments. We hear that Shanann wanted kids her whole life, and these kids are supposed to be her saving grace. They're supposed to be miracles. Miracles that are put away like dolls. Miracles that are protected, not mothered. They're shielded, safeguarded, sheltered, fortified, insulated. They're neglected, ignored, and injured by their mother and their father in different ways, of course. What we definitely know, and most people would not argue, is that Shanann wore the pants in this family. Now that is where Watts does not line up with family annihilators. A, he doesn't wear the pants of his family. Typically, male family annihilators will be substance abusers. Now I guess it depends on how you would describe thrive technically. And Watts was never actually asked to give a specimen so that we could actually know if he was under the influence of any drugs or not. Obviously, Shanann had a press conference to cover the fact that she was a substance abuser. Shanann was drunk that night. It is my belief that Shanann was done pretending that her children had illnesses. She was done being questioned by not just friends but relatives, her mom, her dad even. Watts in his prison interview says that his mother-in-law often got into it with Shanann over the kids and concerning their health. He said she would say just put peroxide on it. I'm wondering if he meant alcohol here because my mom has this old wives' tale. So, I took that to mean that Sandy at some point was like, Shanann, stop intervening with all this medication. Maybe you should try some of these home remedies, or kind of giving her ideas to make maybe for something, that can help her feel proactive, but without intervening or being too strong for the girls, such as medications. I mean, come on, it wasn't going to take long before someone suspected her. She had him on simultaneous breathing treatments, simultaneous ear surgeries from a brand new doctor with no specialist recommendation that wasn't required on their insurance plan. You can check out my Munchausen series for the proof of all that. I'll link it here. I'll link those in the description. Her mother cited her saying that Watts' insurance was the reason she was going back home with him. What the hell is that? It's very rare, though, to have a family annihilator who is not the boss of the family. There's been a lot of writing about this because females who are family annihilators, often in over half of the cases that I've found that have been studied and well documented, in over half of those, the woman's income is either not mentioned at all or has an intrinsic derivative history. In other words, it's not really traceable or trackable how that pants-wearing woman obtained the means by which she was holding it down. But we do often see that the same thing goes for female annihilators. They will often be substance abusers and wear the pants of their families. But I would go as far as to bet that the most prevalent and debated about type of murder that Shanann would have committed on this night would have been revenge. And like I said before, it would never be classified as annihilation. That word and women are never paired in any of the literature. A lot of that is with the nuance of how one classifies mass murder. Way back in the day, Watts wouldn't have classified as a family annihilator either, because it took more than 2 children. Or it took a spouse plus 3 more victims in order to be considered. But in the updated scale, mostly women are just not included because, oh, what's that? Welcome to the world. Isn't it bright and glorious? We're running through the field of misogynistic daisies. Tra-la-la. Anything else you might hypothesize? I say nay. It is a mother, and she did die. Well, that didn't stop any of the way she lived her life. It won't stop the way you live yours, or me mine, etc. And it doesn't exonerate her that she was murdered. No more than it exonerates the killers who were murdered under the definition of execution. 'Tis not a defense, my friends. Was it murder, she wrote? They'll say no. But check it out. We're again under that trope the male and female trope. What if a man wrote to his friend that his wife was a giant loser because she refused to sleep with him? And when asked if he furthered his intentions in any particular way to get her going, he said, "I took a shower. She knows what that means." What if a man posted his wife rubbing his shoulders and rubbing the shoulders of his 2 sons and saying, "Poor Chrissy." Yeah, everyone loves to say, "Poor Chrissy poo," so I figured I'd use it. Put it to good use, yeah. That's right, I said it. I called this hypothetical wife Chrissy, and she's rubbing the son's shoulders. And every time she does that, it's going on Facebook. Lit. Poor Chrissy. She was rubbing my back, and the boy said, "Me next." It's a family affair. Better yet, let it not have all of the things that the public loves to defend. Beauty. Where the world would be if every Shanann defender, if every quote-unquote shiner, as everyone calls them, would have went to bat for George Floyd. What if they would have said, "I'm done with the police executing our citizens. It doesn't matter. Shut up. Stop telling me what he had in his pocket." It wasn't a death sentence, and certainly not a death sentence by those who are supposed to be protecting the citizens, protecting and serving, not robbing and executing. Where would the world be then? We need those people who defend the victims. But where are those that defend Celeste and Bella? We didn't see them then. And even now, as I see people who fully will recognize what they went through, and often they'll still say, "So now what, Neeks? What's the point of your videos?" I guess the point of my videos is like the point of anyone else's videos. To tell you what I think about something and to promote free thought and free speech about discussing this crime. Hopefully without being too big of an ass either side of the fence. And without making myself a victim for doing so. But if we want to get down to the heart of my purpose, it's the story of 2 little girls. No, it's the story of many children who society says had it good. Guess what? On the news, by being retrieved from a f***ing oil tank. And society will say that they were cool, good to go, nothing to see here, as long as the kids were bathed, as long as the kids appeared to have the American dream. I guess here the American dream is substituted for the appearance of the American dream at all cost, at all nuclear cost. And I know that myself and my viewers do not agree on everything, and that's totally cool. I guarantee you we could agree on my next statement. It wouldn't be banned in any forum built on the true crime genre for us to discuss. He did it if the situation were reversed with a bunch of video and post of a man saying whack-a-mommy on the head, say whack-a-mommy. You'd be allowed to talk about that. Whenever I first found out about these murders, I Googled Shanann killed her kids, and I couldn't find anything other than the original news from the outlets whenever they finally got the affidavit of arrest unsealed. Another issue, right? That Watts was fried in the media, and it was communicated by journalist after journalist that Watts had confessed to all 3 crimes, which we now know is not true. He had confessed to killing his wife and told the cops, "She did it. My wife did it." But that arrest affidavit was sealed until the following Monday. So Watts is arrested in the middle of the week, and that following Monday, the warrant is unsealed and it hits the news. But typically, as I've displayed, it's not well received. I've noticed a lot of people seem hung up on the oil in particular. People constantly reminding us that he covered them in oil, he covered them in oil, he covered them in oil. Well, yeah, I know. Hi. Hello. It's Neeks. It's the very first thing I covered on my channel, the Watts crimes. I know about the oil, bruh. I'm in no way defending what the man did, okay? But at some point, that became a big sticking point for me in and of itself, to be reminded so often. Why do they keep telling me to look over there, look over here, look right here? This is all you need to see. Well, yeah, I'm fully aware of that part. I'm fully aware that there's a whole charge for that crime. And here's something odd, that it's even still attached to his charges, because in most states, this would be considered a duplicitous charge, which is different than double jeopardy. But typically, you don't see multiple charges from the same crime, meaning you typically won't see a murder charge with a disposal of the body charge. That would be reserved for a person who helped you and didn't exactly commit the murder, or some other odd thing. At first, in fact, it was tacked on so that they could add it as an option for any jury that was later going to come to the trial. You would think that it would have gotten booted, but considering that he's got a life sentence, even if they booted that one off of there, wouldn't really matter, so it's not worth even filing a motion about. But apparently, to my brain, it was worth noting here to you. Sorry if it wasn't, in your eyes, worth hearing, and I just wasted the most valuable thing you have, your time. My apologies. Now, what was I saying? The oil, that's right. Alright, so check it out. My dad died, and a family friend of ours, of actually both sides of my family, it's one of those family friends that your parents are so close with, you legitimately forget that their kids are not your cousins because, you've grown up with them like your cousins and been around them in a social situation very similar to what you do with your cousins, right? So a family friend died very close to when my dad died, and it kind of brought me and my family friend cousin who I grew up with, it kind of brought us back together for a minute, because it was such a wild week. They both kind of died unexpected, even though they both had some health challenges. Did I just say health challenges? I did. I'm going to leave that in there. So I'm kind of a love child. I have no siblings that I share both parents. And I have a sister on my dad's side, but they weren't close. They have a whole different relationship that I have with my dad. So she wasn't really involved. And it was kind of good for me to have this friend to go through this with, and we were discussing the various ways to lay our family members to rest, right? And her sister was really freaked out about the idea of cremating their mom. And in reverse, I was kind of creeped out by the idea of burying my dad. And her sister is like, ooh, don't burn them. We can't burn her, she said. And I was like, whoa, you can't burn her. Just the vastly different ways that people can look at something like that. I have another friend who had a stillbirth. She had a stillbirth and she had her infant cremated. Well, years later, she found out that her husband had taken some of the remains to a place that he meditated a lot. It was a park. And she conveyed to me that this place to him was like a church. It was like his church. And she said at first it freaked her out. And we were talking about this, right? Because we were discussing same thing with my family friend. She was thinking about cremating her mom and keeping some jewelry. Well, in my brain, I couldn't cremate my dad and then put some in jewelry and then some in the ground. Jewelry. I probably say that hella country. Jewelry. My jewelry. I'm putting my jewelry, y'all. Alright, so that just kind of felt weird, to separate his remains to me. But to other people, that's fine, And that's when she shared this story. And she said at first she freaked out. And she felt the exact same way. Oh my God, my baby's separated. I can never undo this. And at first she's livid. She's like, you've done something to me, that I can never get back. I can never deal with this. How am I supposed to deal with this? And then, she's like, over time, I started to think about it and take into consideration how he feels. And a sacred place to him is now holding something sacred to him, the same as that urn was for her. So it's an interesting notion, disposing of one's relatives, and especially concerning today's society, where we're no longer required to do the dirty work of our relatives passing. We're very removed. There's a place in my hometown now, and it is a natural cemetery where you're allowed to buy a plot and bury your loved one in a shroud without embalming or any of the get-up, which is kind of cool to me because it's all of the get-up that cost a lot of money. I'm significantly poor. I had to borrow the money for my dad's cremation. I could barely afford that, much less like a ceremony. I had a little ceremony for very cheap in comparison. But all of that embalming fluid and formaldehyde and all types of chemicals that are in cemeteries, they toxify the ground and they lay waste to property for an essentially unknowable amount of time. So these shroud type burial plots are getting more popular today's day and age. But how weird that is for some of us to think about, right? I mean, I'm gonna admit, it's kind of weird to think about like asking someone to go to the county's office to pick up my dad, and instead of a funeral home doing that, you would go there yourself, put your loved one in the car, or wrap them in a shroud, load them up, get them ready for burial. It's kind of weird to think about. But at one point in time, this was something everybody had to do. And whether they put them on a ship and set it ablaze, or they buried them in mausoleums, tombs, churches, plots. Everybody kind of has a different way of thinking about that. But it typically tends to be pretty removed from what our ancestors once had to do. But we do see that that definitely gets in the way of people truly contemplating whether or not Shanann killed her children. And for a lot of people, it is a pill they are simply unwilling to swallow. They've murdered the family, whether he is left standing or not. Also, women will kill their children, revenge filicide or otherwise, even if they're not with the man anymore, and we typically don't see that from male annihilators. Another way that this crime does not fit the typical male annihilation is with the finances, because though in trouble the finances were, whenever men murder their families over their finances, they tend to be affluent members of society. Those murders take place with a mansion as a backdrop, and I don't mean like the one people like to call the McMansion. I mean like a real qualifies as a mansion in a real estate advertisement or in any literature describing the house. In mansions. Think of the typical stockbroker. Stock goes bad, must prevent the family from the shame and humiliation. The family becomes one with the definitive financial appearance of the man. And I'm sorry, I just don't really see that in Watts' profile. I do see a man who does obviously care a lot about appearances. But as someone who grew up pretty middle class, I don't see him as above living in an apartment or as someone who would have been embarrassed of his online image to do so. Despite what we see in Discovery, Shanann took that picture of that doll. Watts was at work, and the Discovery constantly refers to the Arizona trip as being on the 10th in order so that it can narrate that Watts sent this to his wife while she was in Arizona and while he was watching the children on that weekend. But it's simply not true. I guess I didn't hammer this home well enough in my doll episode. So you will see in the following itinerary. A lot of people see this narrative as wholly in a fictional pretense in order to peg Watts in the public's eye or in the public's imagination or interpretation of Discovery. But this isn't exactly true. This is something that the DA is required to do in order to show the defense the particular argument which he will be presenting with the relevant evidence in court. So if this was what the attorney is planning to bring to trial later, he wants to tell this to a jury, he must include it in the discovery. And as those things change and we get the ebb and flow of status conferences before the trial, the discovery will get updated. So while a lot of people consider this discovery large, it's actually not that big, considering that there would have been a bunch of different versions as the trial wore on and as certain documents and files, videos, and recordings become applicable for the public dispersal, for which many journalists are often already requesting. This particular allegation would have been blown out of the water. Be sure to let me know what you think, and for now, I guess I'm done talking your head off, but be prepared to talk about this a lot in our upcoming playlist, Watts Confessions. But for now, let me know what you think. She did it, he did it, and why.